It was not my doing. It was my business partner, Jason Polner, that created all this operational stuff, all this just precision and documents and design and how we do things. All of that led to the ability to grow without being chaotic. Like, you might just be lucky and grow anyway. But we always used to say, do we want to be sorting out spaghetti lines that are in a big ball, or do we want to create the grid now? And that's what we did in every single turn.
Hey guys, Damien Stevens, host of MSP Mindset, founder and CEO of Servosity. Today, I continue my mission to interview 100 of the fastest growing and most interesting MSPs on the planet. Today, I am blessed to be joined by Jason Caras of IT Authorities. Now, Jason not only built an MSP from nothing to $34 million self-funded, but he went through all the ups and downs. And what they realized as early as employee number 3, that people are what matter, but to actually care about the people, I need to build amazing process. So they started at employee number 3, building incredible process that allowed them to bring people on without bringing them into chaos. And the surprise to me was that ended up becoming their sales differentiation in a crowded market, is they could show how they're actually better. You know how we all say that we're better at support? He was able to demonstrate how they really are and win more deals because of that, and bring his team into a place of calmness instead of chaos. So if you want to learn the people and the process and the sales to grow from 1 to 34 million and exit, don't miss out on my conversation with Jason. So Jason, I just wanted to jump right in. I think we were talking before. You've started something like 12 businesses. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then one of them or two, maybe, I don't know. A few have actually succeeded. Is that right?
About 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
About 3. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that people who haven't started a business don't realize how hard it is, right? That underscores how challenging.
Yeah. Especially every single one of those 12 were unfunded. There was no money behind. It was all bootstrapped. Mm-hmm. That's why most of them failed, really. It just wasn't enough. Or it was my naivete, or it was over my ski tips, stuff like that. Risk, big risk. No.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you, you've been incredibly successful with IT Authorities, from, being 5,000 lists multiple years in a row to best place to work in Florida, which is obviously a huge state for over a decade. So many different ways to view the success. What do you attribute that to?
So the success, I would attribute it to the people I've surrounded myself with. I have never been the smartest guy in the room. I'm the guy in the room that's willing to put his neck under the guillotine and bet on all the people to keep it from falling down. That really is one of my strengths. It's a high tolerance for risk. Now that changes over time as you get embedded into your family and life. Right. I'm much more, I'm less risk now. But then I didn't have family and kids and so forth. So it was just me. And if I had to starve, I would. And I did, literally. When I first came to Florida, there were a couple of days I didn't even eat. I had a candy bar. I could have called my parents, but I was too proud. And I was mad at myself. I felt like, I deserved the pain, but yeah, so, I would attribute it to the people, and also, a mindset. It's funny. I was doing a speech at University of Tampa one day, and this kid come up to me afterwards, and he says, I don't think I've ever met anybody who's so relentless. Yeah, I'm telling the story of how I started this and it failed, and I started this and it failed, and I had a business partner that got in, and she would bring me the leftover cereal that her son didn't like, for me to eat. But I forgot where I was going with that. But
About being relentless.
yeah,
Right.
and I just said, I never really thought of myself that way. I guess because I never considered it. I never considered giving up.
Right.
So I would say the people, my mindset, and that mindset goes beyond just how I'm thinking, but it's also about what I'm attracting in my life. I believed I was going to succeed. I also believed I was going to meet all the people I needed to meet when I needed to meet them. An orchestra of beautiful precision in life. Things were going to come to me when they needed to come to me. I believed it. And it happened. Now, many times it didn't, right? And I'm like, well, maybe it just wasn't meant to be,
Yeah.
But so it was mindset and people, and then, obviously drive and grit. Yeah. Now, I think that would sum that up.
Yeah. So you have that belief now. What was that mindset there when you had nothing to eat but a candy bar?
Yeah, it was, but it wasn't as strong. I hadn't had as much proof that it works as I do now. But yeah, I did. I was so influenced by Jim Rohn at a young age. Tony Robbins worked for Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn is just, if your listeners are interested in, probably the most incredible writer, speaker, orator that they could ever hear. Most wise person I've ever encountered. Jim Rohn's work is amazing. And, I caught on to that really early. I went to a speech he had at 17. I was 17 years old, and I waited in line to shake his hand. And I got to meet the man, and I just followed his philosophies. And I taught those philosophies. I'm the kind of guy that as soon as I learn something, I can't wait to share it with other people. I just, it's just me. So, yeah.
I can totally relate to that. Hey guys, Damien here. As I continue to interview the top MSPs in the world, one thing has become incredibly clear. It's time that we let go. Even more than that, every time I focus on my zone of genius and get out of the way and do the very few things I'm good at and delegate to others, I'm ready for that next level of growth. So if you're ready for that next level of growth, one way that I could help you is with Servosity. We co-manage your backups and disaster recovery so you can focus on what you do best, let us do the rest, and then what we do is we test the backups every single day so you never have to worry. If you'd like to learn more, click the link below. Tell me about the 12 businesses. Which ones worked?
Okay, well, I got to go through the list here in my mind. So, the first one worked. Jay's painting worked.
Okay.
I was in high school. I was 14 when I started it. So I had to get dropped off at properties to paint houses by my dad. So I didn't have a license. And
I've got kids that age now, so I can relate to that. They're trying to do those sort of things, and I want to be ambitious and be entrepreneurial, but I'm also just like, I can't spend all day every day dropping you off.
Right. Oh, plus I had paint cans, and he's like, "Don't put that paint in my car." I just started, painting a hallway, and then the guy liked it, and he goes, "Well, you want to do another one?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You want to do this one?" Then he loved it because he was underpaying me, and I started getting wise to that. But so that worked because by the time I was a junior in high school, I had 2 crews working for me, mostly degenerates coming out of jail and stuff. But, they just wanted to be paid under the table or whatever, and I couldn't insure them and.
Sure.
But I was making bank, in high school, and that was great. And I employed my friends. All my friends would work there. And so that one worked, honestly. And then, I didn't sell it, but I sold the assets, which were basically ladders and stuff. And then while I was doing that, and this is probably part of my demise with several businesses, actually, was the lack of focus. Because I was so entrepreneurial and so ambitious. I was like, well, I can do this too, and I can do that too, and I can do this, right? So yes, I was painting houses, and then I came across a network marketing opportunity to sell water filters, get other people to sell them. I was less inclined to try to get other people to sell the water filters because I didn't have that kind of influence, and I didn't have a social circle of influence of people that were old enough to do it and so forth. And so I really was just more like trying to retail sell it. And I would leave school and then I would make these little postcards and I'd drop them on people's doors. So part of my routine was just on the way home, just start hitting all these neighborhoods, drop this little card that says, you can use a water filter free for 1 week. And then just call this number, and it hit our answering machine at our house, and I'd get those messages. I couldn't wait to get home to hit play and see what I got, and it's called puppy dog clothes. You go give them it. They love it. They love the taste. Now they don't want to live without it. So the sale was much easier.
Yeah.
But then while I was doing that, it was always something. It was a shiny object, and that's not a wise thing to do. The book,
right.
Good to Great, try to become the best in the world at one thing, not 8 different things.
Yeah.
And it took me many years to ultimately learn that lesson, honestly. I kept being attracted to the shiny objects, and it kept distracting me. And that was the reason why several other businesses failed along the way. And a lot of it was also because of the wrong reasons. I started businesses for the money. And I advise against that. Don't follow the dollar. Follow your passion. The money will come in droves. You follow the dollar, it's way harder. You're not going to be passionate, not going to live it. It's not going to exude from your sweat, So there was a medical equipment business I started where I was buying and selling used medical equipment with a friend of mine. And I can remember going into this hospital, but I was there to buy a defibrillator. And the guy brings me down in the storage room, and he goes, right, aisle E there, just go down there, it's on the right. So I'm walking down there like this, I didn't even know what one looked like, so I'm like, and I'm sitting there kind of wasting time looking right. He says, right there. I'm like, oh yes, of course. And then, he's expecting me to load this up in a truck, and I got a BMW sitting out there. It didn't look right, Nothing was right about this.
Yeah.
That failed. But while I had that business, I rented this office. And in one corner, I had the medical equipment business. And in the other corner, I had a seafood business. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but because this is now 1988, 89, 90. 89, 90, 91. And I started getting into insurance. And with my dad, my dad had worked for Allstate for 25 years in Massachusetts. And then one day on the way to an emergency call meeting, he heard on the radio, Allstate was pulling out of the state. Here he was,
oh, wow.
Yeah, career man there all these years. And he just found out, I don't have a job. I'm going to have to go and start an independent insurance agency.
He found out from the commercial? Mm-hmm. Wow.
Not the commercial, but the news on the radio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, and he came to me, he says, hey, you want to do this with him? I'm like, yes. Like, I was so sick of paint under my fingernails. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, yeah, I want to get into white collar. I'm ready. And that's when I sold my ladders and everything I had there. And I started the insurance agency with him. And then, because he was already kind of semi-retired, he worked 3 days a week, 3 hours a day at that point, right?
Yeah.
So he didn't want to go back to work. And I was excited about the opportunity. I got to pick, create the logo, find the office space, everything, like literally from scratch with his guidance and help. And, but while I was doing that, shiny object, right? Shiny object. Ooh, I started, finding my niche in, insuring restaurants, high risk stuff, and then I had all these relationships with restaurants, and this old friend of mine from high school comes in. He wanted to insure a truck. I was like, what's it for? He said, well, I'm going to start a seafood business. I'm like, oh, really? That's funny because, I got a lot of restaurants that buy seafood. How about we partner up here? So that started happening. That was that office. I had, the medical equipment business on one side and with whiteboards, and then the whiteboards on the other side. So it was restaurants over here and hospitals over here, right? And I would leave the insurance agency to go drive to the other side of town to go and check on that office. It's not effective, Yeah. And they both failed. The medical equipment, the seafood bit, they both failed. They were fun. We ate a lot of lobster. I mean, so much lobster that we didn't want to eat it ever again.
That's funny.
They used to feed the lobster to the prisoners, and they rioted back in the day. They were like, "Stop feeding us this scrap." But so anyway, so we started a company called Caras Insurance Agency. It's still there today. And then I thought I was smarter than my dad, and I said, like, look, I want to do big commercial stuff. So I started a separate insurance agency, and I swore it had to be a separate company. So because it needed to have the image of like commercial, world class. So I started this insurance agency literally across the street in another office. And I spent a ton of money on beautiful mahogany furniture. And they saw me coming in that place.
Yeah.
Everything was beautiful and brand new, and hired all my friends. And we did a ton of business in a very short period of time. I'll give you an order of magnitude. We had an insurance agency that had a couple $1 million in premium. And that had taken 25 years to build. And then I was adding on to it from there. And then I started writing insurance policies that were just huge for transportation. And we submitted $42 million in insurance premiums in the first 5 months.
Wow.
And I kept trying to sell these policies to these to these insurance companies. And again, I thought I was smarter than the underwriters. They had a reason why they didn't want these trucking companies, because there's a science to insurance. They know if you have this DOT rating and this financial credit and this loss ratio, not so good.
Right.
And they basically walk. And I just kept saying, well, what are you doing? We created this very, unique program. And I started going into Boston, putting a suit on and bringing in stacks of policies. And they just kept saying, no. I was like a Tommy boy. No. Okay, then. But eventually got tired of that. And one day I looked at this old guy, insurance, big high rise in Boston. And I just sat back and I looked at him and I'm like, there was a guy in another window in another building. And I was like, you see that guy over there? He looked. I go, one day that's going to be me. And I'm going to be going like this. You missed this. I grabbed my stuff and I walked out. I ended up getting it underwritten in London. And I didn't know anybody in Lloyd's of London. I just called information in England.
Wow.
I called information. I go, I need the number for Lloyd's of London. Sir, we have hundreds of Lloyd's brokers. I go, oh, well, give me the first 3.
That's funny.
And I just started calling. And I got it done. I wrote it, and it was great. But then I got greedy. And I started financing my clients that the companies wouldn't finance. So the insurance company says, we'll write your insurance, but you have to pay me in full. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, all right, I'll finance you. I'll pay your premium. You pay me. I charge them a huge interest rate for that. Well, they ended up, not paying. Everything came crumbling down. I lost everything I owned. I almost took Caras Insurance down too. I had Vesica Insurance and Caras Insurance. I almost took it down with me. And that's when I was truly penniless. And I was like, I was done. I was like, I'm out of here. I can't stand this state anymore. I don't like this weather. I'm going to go somewhere warm. And I'm going to start over. And I cashed out a $2,000 life policy, which is kind of inordinary for a young man like me to have a life insurance policy. But I was in the insurance business. So I had built up $2,000 in cash value, and I took it out and I moved to Florida. And I refused to ask for help because I had, put the Caras insurance at risk as well, doing what I did. And and that's when I came down here and I didn't have any money. After I ran out of that 2,000, I starved for a couple of days and I went on unemployment for the first time in my life. Mm-hmm. And I did that for about 6 months. And then I had to go get a job. So I essentially became Willie Loman from Death of a Salesman. I was like, 1 minute I'm selling these huge insurance policies and creating this captive insurance company and the Turks and Caicos. And the next minute, I'm selling a working phone system out of a briefcase that's the size of a suitcase to gas stations. It was a fall from grace. But you know what I did find out, though? They couldn't afford it, but they needed it. They needed a new phone. Some of these guys needed a new phone system, but they couldn't afford it. So that's when I started reading the trade mags in the office. Nobody else was reading them. I'd take them home. I'd read them. I was like, wait a minute, there's a whole telecommunications boom going on here. I can like save them money by getting them out of AT&T, and I can lower their rate from $1.40 a minute to 44 cents a minute. Right? These are the rates back in the day.
Yeah.
So I would cost justify the phone system by my side hustle business. I started this little business, and they ended up firing me because I wouldn't trick the customers into buying something they didn't need. They were like, we set up these 3 appointments for you every day, and we've been following up, and a lot of them are telling us that you told them that they didn't need it. I was like, well, yeah. I mean, some of them, yeah. Well, you can't do that. You need to, you got to kind of show them, trick them into buying it. I was like, yeah, no. Okay, well, then you can't work here. Okay. So I then, by that time, though, I had the business building. So I made a go of it, and it took me about 8 months. And then one client didn't pay. The largest client didn't pay. And it negated all the other commissions. Crash, right? So that was worldwide telecom, right? So then I was like, I got to go get a job again. So I went to work for another company. It's called Teleco. Great boss, Jim D'Ambrosio. I'm still friends with him today. And I said, listen, I'd like to come work for you, but I got this side gig I want to build eventually. And at some point, when I make enough money, I'm going to come to you and say, I'm going my own way with this. It doesn't compete, and actually it complements. He was like, cool. I did that for about 2 years. And then as soon as I could make $1,500 a month, which was enough to pay for my rent, which was $750, I could have gotten $400 a month. But I wanted to live in the rich community with the business people and the influential. So I stretched myself to live in this place. And there was no dry cleaning. There was no date night money. I couldn't even get my car washed, right? It was very, very tight. And I did that as soon as I did that, it took off. And I ran that for about 10 years. So that was another successful business. That was called Infinity Communications. I ended up literally landing Outback Steakhouse. I had a little corner desk in my bedroom. And every day I would put stacks of phone bills and stuff on top of my bed. It was like my filing cabinet during the day, And I closed Outback. I was like, oh my God, man, I need to get an office. So, I ended up turnkeying all those offices, all those restaurants. I did like 300 or 400 of them. At the time they had about 300 or 400, and I added the rest to about 1,200. Did all the infrastructure, cabling, telephone systems, all that stuff. And I sold that book of business later on to another friend, and I got a residual for years and years, which was nice. And I was getting ready to go become a director. I was like, I want to make movies. I want to make movies that change the world, man. I'm like, you have this microphone, and it's about nonsense. Why not make this about how people can change their lives and so forth? Mm-hmm. I was going to go do that, and I'm getting ready to do it. And then in comes my now business partner. He's like, listen, man, I know you know this company, F1, and I work there, and my friend owned it, actually. So that's why he knew I knew it. And we shared office space in a building, and he wanted to buy it. And he goes, I need someone to be like the sales dude, the front guy, and also I need to raise some money to buy the company. I said, this is following the dollar. Right? Mm-hmm. I wasn't passionate about technology. I really wasn't. But I saw the opportunity because I was in the telecom and they were in the data. Data was winning. Telecom was, they would want me to do everything for free, but the data people, the IT people could charge for everything. $50.
Yep.
This is what it was like. I was like, I want a part of that. So I followed the money. I don't regret it, but I did follow the money. I didn't follow the passion. And we bought the company. I raised the capital. We bought the company, and then we raised the capital, and then we blew it up. I mean, it was booming, and we made some decisions, but we ultimately got kind of hoodwinked by a competitor. really screwed us. And one minute we're doing all this stuff, and the next minute this supplier calls in all our terms. Hey, everything's due now. Whoa. You said it was like 18 weeks for this one and this one, right? Because it's all in this delivery schedule. No. We want it all now. Turns out it was a competitor basically putting his thumb down and saying, kill this company. And they ultimately did. We went into this spiral. And we were in debt, and every day I was on the phone talking to somebody, pacing. We were both pacing outside in front of the office, talking to these creditors. Hey, we'll pay $50 a week until we pay it off. And it took us a long time to pay everybody off. And if there were 100, 95 of them got paid. We didn't file for bankruptcy. Wow. I don't believe in bankruptcy. All those failed companies, I didn't file bankruptcy not a single time. I don't believe in it. I feel like it's stealing. And so we didn't do that. And it took us a while. But anyway, that came crashing down. We ran it for 5 years, and then it came crashing down. Lost everything again. I've been like, So a client of ours says, listen, guys, I'll help you out. If you want, you can use my Amex. If you want to start another company, you can bankroll it with my Amex. I'll just take, 65% of the company or 75% of the company. It was not a great deal, but it was either go and work for somebody else or you have another chance to do this again. So we took it, and we took the chance, and he was grateful of us. We were grateful for him to give us his credit card to use. And then we started growing so fast, he couldn't keep up. And it was just like, look, and we came to some differences too. And we separated. We paid him off. And in order to pay him off, I had to buy my business partner's house for way more than it was worth so we could use that cash to capitalize the business. Isn't that crazy? So we did that. And that was IT authorities. And that's where we are today. So that's how IT authorities started. We started with about $5,000 and then a credit card. And then we sold everything and then financed the business ourselves. Didn't have any bankers. We couldn't get lines of credit because our credit was destroyed from F1. So then we were relegated to factoring, which doesn't come with KY jelly. And it's very expensive financing. And we did that for years until a bank would finally give us the time of day. And then obviously the meteoric rise, we started our first year at 1.1 million, and our 17th year, we hit 34 million. Wow. So it was boom, 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 boom. It just grew. And it exploded. And it was amazing.
Yeah. There's so much to unpack there. At one point you were talking to me about this, and you were saying that you needed to show the customers how you could benefit the business and that you weren't just IT. And I think that's, as the tech guy that runs an MSP, myself, that ran an MSP, I often have missed that. So how did you approach that?
This is how I did it. I opened up the hood. I'm a very transparent person, so that also extends into our personality of our company and our business and our operations and our sales. So I would kind of set up my competitors to fail, really, because I was never just the only one on the bidding table, right? There was always multiple competitors. So how do you differentiate? And the way I differentiated was, you're going to choose someone, and it's either going to be smooth or it's going to be chaotic. And these are the reasons why it's going to be either smooth or chaotic. And I'm going to show you in your daily, in the life of working with a provider like us, what it's going to be like. And the differences with us are, there's a document for this. You're not relying on Johnny, who you like to get on the service desk. Everything is documented so anybody can help you at any given time. What happens when this happens? Well, this is what we do. This is how we do it. You see this is how we can do it and be accountable to you so that we can deliver what we say we're going to deliver. We would show that. I literally did call it the Orchestra of Precision. It was not my doing. It was my business partner, Jason Polner, that created all this operational stuff, all this just precision and documents and design and how we do things. And our literal first automation was not automation at all. He refused to automate it until we got the process down. So we used color-coded paper with bins, mounted on the wall. You would walk up to the wall and you know if this was pink or red or blue or yellow, you knew exactly the stage it was in.
Wow.
And then we automated that. But we would demonstrate how we operate. This is when you put a ticket in, this is what's going to happen. But what happens if you're not happy with the person you're on the phone with? Is there a process for that? Well, yes, there is. Internally, we're going to do this, this, and this, and then we're going to come back to you with this. And that, so demonstrating how we operated and showing how we could deliver consistent results. So we were not in the business of making them more, we weren't in business process re-engineering. That's not what we did. I considered ourselves the plumbers of IT. We kept your systems in its most reliable and secure state, and we supported those end users with really great personalities, very patient people. And we were very good at that delivery, and we hired really good people. So that experience was amazing. So all of that combined was how we benefited that business, because they could trust that it would work when it was supposed to. And that if they had an outage, they knew our internal processes to mitigate and to replace and so forth, whatever it was. So that's really what I did. I opened up the commode and showed them, this is our business. And when I did that, I outclassed the competitor. I demonstrated a level of sophistication, and I said, ask anyone you're talking to show you how this works. And they couldn't. A lot of them can today, especially with all the tools that are available and so forth. But this was all very manual back in the day. Did I answer that question?
Yeah, I'm curious, because you had such a process-driven system so early on. Well, let me back up. A lot of people realize they need process as an inevitable part of growth. I think you implemented it much earlier. When did you guys start working on process?
Yeah, we got to make a joke of this because we had this small office. I remember it. It had a puke green carpet, which was the bane of my existence, because I'd walk in and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
But there was a written, documented process for how to close down the office, like what lights to shut off, how to set the alarm, and to turn off the AC. Right? There were a total of 3 employees: me, my business partner, Jason Polner, and his wife, Tawny Polner. But so who was reading these instructions? Well, sometimes you forget, right? So ourselves would look at the process to say, oh yeah, this is what I got to do first, right?
Yeah.
But we were really writing documents for the 4th and 5th that were going to be hired at some point when we were more successful. And we always had that philosophy. And it in and of itself is risky, because you're spending time on something that is not necessarily going to give you an immediate return. So you have vision and trust that you're going to be successful one day, and you're writing this stuff so that you can. And that's really what that really set us apart. Honestly, that's how we were able to deliver. We go into in all these years, we've gone into some big companies, international, multi-billion-dollar companies, only to find they are run so half-assed that they have none of their stuff together, and they're begging for our kind of process. And we influenced some of these huge companies. When they saw that, they're like, wow, this is amazing, right? I mean, we had such unbelievable documentation. And, I should also tip my hat here to Publix supermarkets. Because Jason Polner came out of Publix supermarkets, and what made them successful was their operations, their processes, and their documentation, and certainly their automation, which they had a lot of money to throw at. We took that philosophy of a giant company and made it into a small company. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of time. You want to go home, but you need to write this document, right? So all of that led to the ability to grow without being chaotic. You're going to, you might just be lucky and grow anyway. But we always used to say, do we want to be sorting out spaghetti lines that are in a big ball, or do we want to create the grid now? And that's what we did in every single turn.
So I hear you saying that's what enabled you to land bigger clients than others, differentiate your or ability to handle the volume of sales. But are you also saying that was a large portion of why you were able to convince them that you were different? And
yeah. Oh, that was the sales. Because anybody can come in and say we're better than them, but what we were essentially doing was proving that we were better than them. We were proving that we were more thoughtful, and calculated, and sophisticated, and that there was a system that could handle this and this at any given time because of all. So, like, what I mean by that is once we started driving this, we wrote in Microsoft Dynamics CRM, we wrote on top of it. And if someone didn't do something in a task, there were dependencies that would be held up and the flags would go off. If you don't have this kind of stuff, then it's a tree falling in the forest waiting for a customer to discover it hasn't been done.
Yeah.
And these could be gaping holes of security or anything else. But nonetheless, it was a tree falling in the forest only to be discovered at the worst possible time. Right. So that's what I was kind of like. It's funny. I kind of took the insurance philosophy of selling. Think about a life insurance guy. It's tough. Right? Or gal. Hey, I want you to buy something for something you don't want to think about that I know you don't think you need.
Right.
Right. But you have to give.
And everybody can offer you about the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So. That was our sales process. It was really demonstration of the business, the processes, the sophistication, the thought behind it, the intent, and the customers appreciated it. They liked it. They saw these guys got their stuff together. And you know what? We didn't always. Sometimes we had great service. Sometimes we failed. Either bad hires or maybe a little bit too growth. I mean, you can write the best processes in the world, but they may not actually work. So you got to stick and move. You got to say, all right, that process didn't work. Let's fix it. I'll give you a good example. Let's say we get a bad survey. Even to this day, every single customer survey is copied to all employees. Everyone sees it. Good, bad, or indifferent. And if it's a neutral or less, there's a process for that. It's like, okay, well, first the customer success executive is going to reply all to the email that says I'm on it, acknowledging that I am on this issue. They're going to reach out to the end user that put that survey in. They're going to get their side of the story. They're going to take that information. They're going to meet with their immediate supervisor. They're going to discuss it and figure out what went wrong. We're going to listen to the recording. We're going to go through the whole process, and then we're going to come back to the customer and say, okay, we saw where it broke down. So here's what we did. We changed the process. Here's the old process. Here's the new process. And they appreciated it. They're like, I'm not expecting perfection, but what I am expecting is you to grow and learn from this and be better. Be better today than yesterday. Yeah. And we were able to do that for real by that kind of a process. So oh yeah, we noticed that this is a problem. We didn't even think of this part. Now here's the new written documented process that we're not going to put on our website. We're going to put into our operational manual, but I'm going to share it with you, Mr. Customer. So it was a lot of locking arms. That conversation also took place. If this was a sale, I would explain this to them. I'd say, look, we're not going to be perfect. We're not going to get every ticket right. We're going to have some bad surveys. It might be because your person's got a bad mood today, and and that's okay. Or it might be that we stepped all over ourselves and we made some mistakes, but we don't want to make those twice.
That's right.
And so that's how we did it. And it worked. It worked well.
So I'm leaning into this and I'm going, man, I need to do this. How do I figure out what you did? Do I get a bagging job at Publix? Is there a secret you guys have? Is there books you've read?
Well, I should say that we took Publix has a structured writing system that they had macros all customized into Microsoft Word. But every single document we ever produced looked exactly the same. That's the biggest impression and influence Publix gave us was that structured writing system. So whether it was an internal communique or it was one to the customer, it was always in the same exact format. It was pretty cool. I wish I could show it to you, but there were headings, there were subheadings and everything. There were tables. There were rules around tables. You don't put more than 7 steps in a table. If you do, you're going to separate it. We had these rules to make a lot of white space, clean looking lines, easy to read, not a lot of clutter, but you could get used to reading our documents. You're like, I know exactly what I'm looking for, and I know exactly where to look, which saves you time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did this process shape who you brought on the team and your culture?
Yeah, that's such a good thing because all of it came by way of the people. We can have all the processes in the world, but it's the people that have to follow them. And for people to follow them, there needs to be a desire to do so first. We didn't hire for skills. That's the biggest thing that we did different. We hired for attitude. We'll teach you.
Tell me about that, because everybody hires, everybody's got the same job ad.
Yeah.
That says, I need a level 2 that's familiar with XYZ tech stack, whatever. Yeah. And then that's how they start with that, which means they're already looking for skills. So tell me more
of our
about
list.
This. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the bottom of our list. It's obviously necessary. They need to know what they're doing. But it's their personality, because these people are not going to be talking to robots. They're going to be talking to actual other human beings. And those other human beings are not calling because they're happy, right? They're calling because they can't work, because something's wrong and broken. So first of all, they already have an edge to them, right? Yep. So you have to have a level of patience and compassion. We used to do some little tricky things. Like, for instance, we would plant a paper towel holder in the bathroom in our little tiny office that we had. And we would leave it with just one. It was a prop. And we would check it out. If they used the bathroom, we'd see what they would do. Did they use the last one and replace it? There was another one sitting right there, a full one. That's the kind of attitude we were looking for. That kind of person. So that's a thoughtful person. That's a courteous person. That's a polite person. And then the other thing is, are they too cool for school? It was, do you want to grow? So much of our business, our culture was about personal development. I used to call it a garden of personal development. That's what my promise to you was if you came to join us. It was, you will grow here. We're going to help you grow. And if you're not growing here, then you're not a good fit here, right? Either we're not doing our job or you're not, and it's not going to work out well. But we wanted to give them a platform to grow. But not just, so in our office, we had this big wall, and on it says, I work harder on myself than I do my job. Antithetical from an employer to say.
Right.
But if you're working harder on your job, you got the cart before the horse. But if you're working harder on yourself, everything comes into play. Because your work is part of yourself, right? It's part of your life. But what we would explain to people, and this was during a lot of interviews, we would explain to them that the beach of your life is, let's say, this big. Your job is this big, right? This is so much bigger. And it's more important for us to contribute to your life success than it is for us to make sure that you got the skill set and that, you understand the bits and the bytes, right? It was really more about, are you willing to grow? Are you interested in growing? Are you interested in drinking the Kool-Aid, which was very much it was an exciting environment. We would talk, we had this thing, I told you about 212. I'll explain it here. This is very important. I came across this somewhere around 2006, 2007. There was a company that had some marketing material that said 212 degrees. And it was like, at 211, water is hot. At 212, it boils. The difference is just 1 degree. 1 degree can turn hot water into boiling water into steam, and steam can power locomotives. I can still remember the poster to this day, And to me, I translated that into this: your very best. And to get to your very best, you have to put yourself in an uncomfortable state, which is growth. In order for you to grow, it's a little uncomfortable to grow, right? So you have to and the longer you can remain in that uncomfortable state, the more successful you're going to be. You can translate that to working out and building muscle. If you stop every time your muscles start to burn, you're negating the whole process. If you work through that uncomfortable phase is when you tear the muscle and when you actually obtain growth. Mm-hmm. So we were looking for people that fit that personality. That personality of wanting to grow, that wanted to be part of a team, that wanted to be excited and driven. And, we hired for that way more than we did for their skill sets. Mm. That was, I'd say that's the staple. Everyone knew us for 212. So like, for instance, if somebody who worked for us didn't replace that last paper towel, someone else, not your boss, some other colleague would look at you and go, we used to call this our gang symbol, right? The IT authorities gang. This was from the heart, off the record, from the heart. That's not 212. Mm. So you'd always see that fist bump, like, hey, that's not 212, bro. Yeah, you're right. Let me clean up that coffee stain on the table. That's the right thing to do. Not just for me, because that's going to build self-confidence and self-esteem in myself, but that's also a demonstration that I'm part of this big, beautiful, grinding, achieving machine, that I'm part of this animal that we're building together. That was the difference. That's how we hired. Those are the people we're looking for. And by the way, some people could fake it, but soon it would come out. We'd find out if they're 212 or not, sooner or later.
And to this day, what's on your license plate?
B212. I had it as Live 212, but it was only LIV, and I didn't like that. I couldn't have enough numbers for that. So it's just B212.
I love it. I love that. So I love that, you've turned culture into something specific, right? With the being 212 and the story behind it and what that means. How did you actually make that change? Because I think there's so many of us that go, I want to hire great people. Like, I get that the people are what matter, and I want to hire great people. But then I know in the beginning, I did what everybody else did. I copied the same boring job ad. Yeah. I went through the same recruiting process, asked the same questions, and I got the same results, which were not hiring at all for attitude. They were hiring for skill sets and things like that. So how did you guys approach either hiring or managing people differently?
Well, I'll start with birds of a feather flock together. So if you did find someone who was 212, chances are they ran with some people at other companies that were similar. Mm-hmm. So our people became the best recruiters, number one. And then the other thing is you got to get really good at interviewing and sifting through the BS and figure out, is this real? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of, I guess scenarios you can run by somebody just to see how they would act and what they would respond with. And you just figure out, are you thinking of yourself? And that's really what it is. If you're selfish, you're not going to work well here, because we had this thing called 360-degree leaders, where it was if you were above somebody in a department, your job, your commitment, your responsibility is to replace yourself with the people beneath you.
Yep.
And it's for the people next to you to grab them here and bring them with you up. And it's for your supervisor, your manager, whatever. It's to help them, push them to their next level. Because the philosophy was givers get. Mm. And when you do that, number one, you do feel good. You feel honorable. When you help somebody that you didn't have to help. And really, that's not for everybody, right? That has to be your love language. That's my love language, is helping people. We said that in the beginning. We're looking for like-minded people. Yeah. But I couldn't find a bunch of Jason Carases, because that's not going to work, right? We need all kinds of personalities. We need analytics. We need, and you know what? There's a place for people that just don't want to talk to people.
Right.
They were great in the knock, right? Yep. They're looking at the numbers, and that's great. They didn't need to be, influential and unself. They didn't have to have all these other characteristics.
That's right.
But it's very difficult to find the people, honestly. You know that. And most of it's just, you take a risk and you see how it works out. So we were very slow to hire and quick to fire. And that was part of our culture because we would tell them when we were hiring them, hey, listen, if you walk in and you see something wrong and you don't raise your hand, that's not good for us.
Yeah.
Right? That was a big thing. I was going to tell you something. I forgot what I was talking about there. I was going to go in a different direction. But anyway, it'll come to me.
Yeah, something about if you see something wrong, you don't raise your hand.
Yeah. So basically, let's say you're brand new in our company and you see something wrong and you see somebody that's not doing something right.
Uh-huh.
And they're supposed to be like this, but the person's like this.
Yeah.
So what I want you to do is come over there and go, hey, buddy, let me show you how to go like this.
There you go.
If you're not that guy, you're not for us. That was a big part of it. And that was actually the exact example we would give them. We're like, don't you be afraid to raise somebody else's hand just because they've been working here longer than you. Help them. And if you do not see them improve, then you come to us and then we will sit with them. And then if it does not improve, bye, Felicia, because keeping someone that is against the culture was a disservice to everybody else that lived and breathed the culture. It was so unfair to them. And we were guilty of it a few times. We kept somebody that was a toxic pill. And I remember in our second office, beautiful office, we had these beautiful cubicles and there were 4 quads.
Yeah.
And if there was one poisonous, I tell you what, it was only a matter of time. All of them in that little cluster were poisonous and they were just not right for the company. And those are the times that we would find, service decline. There was this one guy, he was a network engineer. And one of the salesperson said to him, hey, listen, can you help me get into this account? And he says, well, why would I do that? I don't get anything for that. Whoa, dude. Whoa. Let's see. I had a saying for that. It was, I forgot what it was, but it was like, you're not going to work here anymore. Naga, not going to work here anymore. If you do things for only that reason, you're not for us. Right?
Yeah.
That's unselfish. And when they did that caused us pain. We had bad projects because of it, because he didn't have the right mindset.
That's right.
Yeah.
All about what's in it for him instead of
what's in it for me. Yeah, WIIFM. What's in it for me? I go, if you listen to that radio station, don't come here.
Yeah.
And we won't keep you. And if I do keep you, I'm literally spitting in everybody else's face.
Right.
That's rowing in the same direction.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you guys as leaders and especially founders walk the walk?
Well, that's the key, right? You do have to walk the walk. You have to be that every day. And you know what? That's uncomfortable too, right? That's an uncomfortable state. That's where we grew. And that's because we had the mindset that we didn't know it all. I would tell people, listen, if you ever worked for a company and you saw a CEO that was doing something that was really great, let me know about it. Also, if you see I'm doing something that's not going well with people, let me know. I am not too cool for school. I do not know it all. I'm with you. We're all doing this together. You don't work for me. You work with me.
Yes. Very big difference.
Big difference. And that's the attitude we had. We were always coachable. It's just like a kid. If he's not coachable, he's never going to be improved. But same thing with adults. I'm coachable. I'm here to learn today. I'm going to learn every day.
Yeah.
If you didn't have that mindset, you weren't going to work well.
Yeah. I love that. Now, you guys were so process oriented. I'm curious if you developed a process or documentation or something around understanding what the fit was or what culture really was, or what being 212 meant.
Yeah, we did. We did some personality stuff. There's much better stuff today. There's some really good systems out there you can use to really figure out whether someone's right for a role. I could probably look it up right now. There's one that's really particularly awesome I just came across, and I went through it myself, and it pegged me perfectly. But we would use that. We would list. So the way we did it, though, in the beginning, it was kind of just rudimentary. We took our best employees, and we took the worst that we had ever encountered. and we listed all their traits. And that's what we looked for. We said, okay. And there was this one woman, Daniela Diaz, just an amazing young lady. And she was just such a superstar. And she would act, and I used to tell people, I want you to act like it's your company. I tell everybody that. But not everybody carried that torch. Some did. She did. And then another employee, Mike Henkin, he's still with us today. Just an amazing guy. Been with us 18 years. So they act like it's their business. And, they were, and we took all their traits. We made a list. We're like, okay, they're this, they're this, they're this, they're this. What are they not? They're not this, da, da, da. And then we took the worst. We're like, da, da, and we go through. So at a basic level, that's what we first started doing. And then later on, we started getting into personality tests and so forth, where you start to figure out, is this person in the right career? They don't even know it, but they're not in the right career.
Right.
You imagine you're helping your mom. Like, Mom, all right, listen. No, the lower left corner of the screen, not the right. Right? I don't think, if you don't have the patience for your mom, I don't think you're going to have patience for a stranger who's got like a whipping tongue, who's pissed off because his computer's not working. You're in the wrong business, bro. You're not in the customer service business. You ever go to a restaurant and you're like, why are you a server? You got the worst bedside manner.
That's right. Yeah. You need to wash the dishes or cook the food or something. Right? Not be in front of the people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you guys went from 1 to 34 million, if I'm correct. You're in the Inc. 5000 list so many times as fastest growing company.
Yeah.
7 times. Yeah. What's a decade of the best place to work in Florida?
About that, yeah. There was a magazine called Florida Trend Magazine. At 1 year, we won the best company to work for the whole state.
That's
and then
amazing.
the rest of them are the Tampa Bay Business Journal, where we would win best places to work for year after year after year, and it was great. But here's the thing, though, right? The other one was a fast growing. A lot of times they don't coincide. Because
that's what I was getting at. Like if you went from 6 to 12 people over 5 years or 15 years, then, it's a little easier. Most people have more comfort. So you're going to get out of your comfort zone. So fast-paced growth and best place to work, I found don't
mix sometimes. That's right. Because you know why? Chaos.
Right.
Chaos ensues. And, let's talk about culture. To me, I define culture as this. If you go to an office and you get up to the front door and you put your hand on that front doorknob and you open it up, what's going through your head, your personal head, is our culture. How you feel is our culture. Culture is not something we put on our website. Culture is how people feel about coming to work at our company and what it's like in the day of the life of that. And if you feel that you're not appreciated, and if you feel that it's a crap show, everything is disorganized, nothing's documented, and it's always a fire drill, very difficult to have a good culture.
Yeah.
So what saved us was the processes. It was the anti-chaos. It was like, no, we don't do chaos here, bro. That's not how we roll. We're going to do it right. And it's going to be methodical, and it's going to be scientific, and we're going to round it out to completion. There will be no incompletes, right? So that was huge. Yeah.
I think that's interesting because I think it's easy to celebrate, right? So there's a large percentage of people that celebrate hustle, celebrate almost chaos, right? They push so hard for the growth that I think the mindset can easily become that growth equals chaos, and I'm just happy to have the growth, so I'll take the chaos.
Yeah. Well, then, I don't think you really care about the people. And I don't mean to sound almighty here, but we really, what the secret to culture is? Caring, right? It's just, it's a fundamental, but you care or you don't. What we demonstrated time and time again to our people is that we cared more about them than ourselves. And that shows. If that's the opposite, it shows. And if someone's showing you that, demonstrating that by actions, not words, then you start to get some loyalty. They realize they got my back. I sat bedside with an employee that was put in a coma. We've done that kind of stuff. We've paid people for months after we fired them because we knew we were in a bad way. Yeah, many times, many times we've helped people like that because we truly care. And, it's easy to say, oh, keep the money, Yeah. It was, you know what? It's money well spent. And even the people who didn't say thank you or maybe didn't appreciate it as much as they should have, I don't regret a single one of them. I didn't do it for that reason. We never did it for that reason. We didn't do it for the applause and the attaboy. We did it because it makes us feel good. We subscribe to a philosophy that when you do the right thing, you build self-esteem and self-confidence. Yes. You're building this presence around you, this glow. And I like the word presence because culture has a presence. That's because personalities have a presence. Right? Everyone's got this personality presence and they all kind of bumping into each other. But if they're all rowing in the same spot and we're all drinking the Kool-Aid, it's a really exciting place. It's never 100%. You're always going to have a couple that are not. And, what's in it for me? What do I get out of this? So we had another thing painted on the wall. I don't ask what I'm getting. I ask what I'm becoming. Two different kinds of people. What am I getting? Well, you're getting to become a professional loser. And this will carry all the way through the rest of your life. Congratulations. Right. But if you do the other thing, you will grow immensely and you will reach your dreams because the basic fundamental is if you want to succeed, help others do so. And if you don't care, then why bother?
Yeah, it's as basic as that.
It is. And most things do boil down to fundamentals, don't they? Just fundamentals.
Yeah. I also appreciate you sharing, Jason, because I feel like you're not the first I've met that has paid people that didn't work there anymore or paid somebody that couldn't work. And my point in that is I appreciate you sharing it because what I found is most of us, we don't do it for the applause. We don't put that on the website. Sometimes we don't even tell the team.
Right.
We just do what we think we should do.
We never told
what we'd want done.
Right? We didn't tell a team because then you start this expectation too. You don't want to put it on blast either.
Well, that, and I didn't know your answer to that, so I don't want to put you on the spot, but that didn't surprise me because it's a double-edged sword, but also, if I'm understanding you right, I never did it for my glory.
Yeah.
And advertising that, makes it about me instead of about just doing the right thing.
That's right. I agree. 100%.
So many people like you that put people first, and there's the people that want to give, that you want to attract like this, and then there's a lot of others that we see as applicants. I'm sure you have that want to get and only get, and I found that the people that think of business owners as evil, most of them haven't worked for a real small business owner that really has that heart and culture to put the people first.
Well, there's so many examples where the companies don't put the people first. So that's what they're used to, especially as you get larger and stuff. But yeah, they have maybe the last 5 jobs they've had that experience. And then they come here and they're like, does not compute, right?
Yeah.
What's going on here? I had an employee who's still with us today. I remember there was some chaos going on during our growth. It was really, really tough. And I don't remember this. It's just natural for me to do it. But I went up to him. He told me this story just a couple weeks ago. He goes, you come up to me and you said, hey man, are you okay? I was like, oh yeah. And you stopped me. He said, no. I mean, personally. He goes, you know what? I had never, ever had a boss come to me and say anything like that and actually care in my whole career. I'm like, it wasn't a big stretch for me. I was genuinely concerned. It was, but see, you walk the walk. And then people realize that it's not BS and that this is the culture. And then they stay. We've had several employees that came, then there was some chaos and they got some great opportunities. They went elsewhere and they all came back. I mean, a lot of them came back. I could give you a list right now that they left for a year or two and then they came back and we welcomed them back. They were like, yeah, I didn't realize just how good it was here. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we heard some of that, and some of that with customers too, which is always an interesting one to see.
Oh, I know. Yeah. This time we're going to charge you more. No, just kidding.
You had that great pricing then. Yeah. Your grandfather. I think it's just this month you kind of started a new chapter where you're leading a division and you're doing the same thing, but the roles and titles have changed. And the reason I bring that up is, right, you've gone from that, you and your founder and his wife to, a $34 million company, and now a division of a publicly traded company. So my question is, given the culture, given how you place importance on people, how did you think about what you want out of an exit?
Help me out a little bit more on that. How do you mean what do I want out of the exit? You talking alignment, or are you talking?
You could sell to anybody. You could sell to a platform company. You could sell to a roll up. You could sell.
Okay. Yeah. Our biggest thing was this, and again, because we cared, we didn't want someone to just buy us, chop off half the staff, take our customers, and call it a day. That was not the vision we spelled and sold to our employees all these years.
Yeah.
Ever since the beginning, we shared with them that one day we want to be acquired by a company that doesn't do what we do, a larger company. By the way, that scared a lot of employees, and some of them even jumped ship because of that, because some people just can't handle that. They're like, whoa, risk.
Yeah.
Understood. But we wanted to find someone that would complement our business. And we were also, don't forget, we weren't funded by anyone. So everything was bootstrapped. And instead of paying ourselves, we just kept growing the company. And I got to tell you, I advise against doing that as much as we did. I really do. You really do. That. You have to pay yourself first. You do have to pay yourself first. There is a balance. Yes, you want to double down on the business and so forth, but you got to put some money to yourself because it can all go. We went from $34 million down to $10 million in 2 years. Okay. I wish I had not paid all these people that we didn't need. I wish we weren't so drunk with the money. I wish I put some money aside. There's a lot of that. But ultimately, like I said, we wanted a company that would be complementary. And they could say, hey, look what we do now, and it would be, because the biggest, challenge, one of the biggest challenges in growing an MSP is just getting up to bat. Well, it's easy to get up to bat with an existing customer you already have a great relationship with. And that's the vision we saw. And it's starting to play out today. In our acquisition, it was a much bigger leap for us because, our largest customer billed about $300,000 a month at one point. And that was a giant whale, obviously. And then we had about 5 or 6 that were billing about $100,000 a month and so forth. And then about 80 that were billing less than $10,000. Right?
Sounds like the normal curve right
there. Yeah. So as we were acquired, the companies, without listing them, I'm talking very household names. Some of the largest companies in the world are their clients. You don't just go in there and say, hey, I want to take over the managed services for an airline. Right. It's not going to happen. We're a rounding error to these companies. Their IT department, our quantity of humans is a rounding error to their IT department, right? They're so huge. So, but we can become a SEAL Team 6 for them. They have a special project they don't have the skills for, they don't have the tolerance for, or whatever. And then we can start to establish a beachhead with these big, large accounts and start to do some business. So that was the ultimate goal, was to get a complementary provider. It was a bonus that we met such great people, such generous, solid people that also shared with the same cultural beliefs, integrity, just the way to do business. So that was fortuitous, meeting the right people. So yes, the transition just took place as of December 31st of 24. I no longer the CEO of IT Authorities, a wholly owned subsidiary. I am now a senior vice president. I'm still responsible for the success of what is now a division, the managed services division, retaining and adding clients. But now I have the opportunity to go beyond that and get into the really big stuff. And that's where I'm going to be also stepping into an uncomfortable state and getting into these large enterprises. It's a different sale, as you know.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it, and it's just starting. It's the 8th, and I'm chomping at the bit. I'm going to go out and visit some of these companies, some of these world-renowned companies, and get to go meet them and be part of that relationship. I answer that.
Yeah. So there's a lot more choices out there than the emails you're getting and the phone calls you're getting for, a PE backed roll up. There's other ways. Yeah. Depending on what you want for your company and your team.
Well, we made some pretty grave mistakes that really gave us a giant haircut.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So we were at the height of our growth. 2017. We're rocking. We're crushing these huge contracts. And the last one we did, we signed it in 2017 or 18, and the execution was, about 2018. It was a $21 million technology refresh.
Wow.
Massive. 65 offices, coast to coast of the entire country of Canada. About 6,500 employees. Every laptop, every cell phone, every MPLS circuit back then, every wireless access point, everything was brand new. We had 400 people in the field. And at that point, I decided, you know what? Let's not go and get acquired. Why don't we get acquired by a private equity firm and grow this thing to 300 million? And we ended up saying, well, maybe we'll have a better chance of attracting the attention of private equity if we bring in some rock stars. And everyone just kept telling us, dude, I can't believe you're doing this. Like, yeah, I'm going to hire a CEO to take my place. We're going to hire this team to take my place. And it didn't work out. And it all came crumbling down, and we had to come back and save the company. So we took a haircut. Our valuations were about 30 million at the time. Because of some various factors. And we ended up getting involved with a PE that was interested. And the offers started declining through the due diligence process until it got to a point where we were like, whoa, put the brakes on. Mm-hmm. We had stepped out too far of the business. We took our eye off the money ball, and everything crumbled. And it's a single biggest mistake of my life and of the life of the business. But we came back and immediately took over and reinstituted fiscal responsibility and accountability, and we turned it around. But we didn't get it back to those numbers, and we ultimately took a giant haircut in the valuation and the ultimate sale of the company. And frankly, had I sold back in 2017, I would probably never have to work again. And I'm not there now. I'm grateful for what we received. It was more than what I had, so I'm not looking to give horse in the mouth. But I have to win again. I'm in my head starting all over again to build that wealth goal that I've had since I was 17 years old. Back at it.
Knowing what you just went or what you just described, what advice would you have for somebody else that? I know as an entrepreneur, I keep thinking every year's going to be the best year ever. Yeah.
Don't think anyone's going to save your day. No one's going to do it better than you. No one's going to treat your money like your money. That was the biggest thing. They were like, everybody got paid, tons of people, tons of money, just waste everywhere. And if that were their money, it never would have made those decisions. I know I wouldn't have. So don't ever take your money off the ball. Actually, I just ran into a friend of mine. He's just became really successful in his insurance business, and he was telling me how he's going to bring on this team, and I'm like, hold up, bro. Okay, it's okay to do that, but do not take your eye off the ball. You keep yourself inserted, because we had so much like fatigue, stress fatigue that we kind of like burnt. And I took 2 years off ultimately. And I was the chairman of the board. I got some reports, and I was just living large. I was spending money like crazy, eating at beautiful Ocean Prime every day, and just oblivious to what was actually going on. And so that's my biggest lesson for me. And I encourage people, don't ever let go, and keep yourself on your attention on the money, because in the operations, we had 40 people we didn't even need. 40.
40 is a gigantic number.
Yeah.
Of
40 people.
Wow.
Yeah. So, it was just throw people at problems. That's not what we did, but that's what this regime did, and it wasn't great. And it's not their fault. It was a lot of chaos. I'm telling you, like we were ingesting gigantic clients, each bigger than the previous. So that chaos is going to ensue. I don't care what kind of processes you have; they're not going to work. They have to grow, and they have to grow with your business. So we realized our processes were not there. We got to do this. Well, when we weren't inserted in the business, there was nothing being dealt with that way, because that was not the philosophy of the original founders. So that's the number one. And the other one would be, like I said before, pay yourself first. Put some money aside, because you could get sued in a week and lose, right? You could anything could happen.
Yeah.
And then for what? You just grind it out 15, 17 years of your life underpaying yourself for this? No, that's my biggest piece of advice. Pay yourself first. And obviously, don't take your eye off the ball.
So both great advice. I'm curious, if somebody's been in business for a long time, and when you've been in it for 15, 17, 20 years, it's really easy to get burnt out.
Oh, yeah.
So it's also easy to give this advice to don't take your eye off the ball, but it's also really tempting to kind of check out.
I know. And I did. I checked out. We both checked out. Both had fatigue. When you have everything riding on it, you're not funded by some PE. That's a different kind of stress, right?
Yeah.
You could lose your house and everything you have. Whereas the PE would just lose an investment, right? It's a different ball game.
Yeah.
So it's an attractive little thing, but there's no such thing as an easy way, right? The more difficult it is, the more worthy it is, probably. So you got to stick to it. The stick-to-itiveness. Don't give up. It's like there's two ways to attack any kind of challenge. If you touch a thistle timidly, it pricks you.
Yeah.
But if you grasp it boldly, its spine crumbles. This is how you go about it. You have to white knuckle it until the very end. And don't let up, because as soon as you do, spinning crescent kick to the face. And I've had them. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. So you may have covered this already, but what is your biggest lesson out of all these years in business, Jason?
I think we did one thing, which was the end was in mind the entire time, and you need to know what that is. If you don't know where you're going, then it's going to influence all those decisions along the way. And it did. It influenced. We underpaid ourselves because we wanted to have a bigger company. We wanted to add more talent, more people. But I would still do that, but I would put some money aside. I would put some money aside, because you're not in business to be busy.
Right.
You're in business to create wealth for you and your family. And, the book, what was that book? It's so good too. The E-Myth.
Yeah, Gary.
It's like, what are you? Are you an entrepreneur? The entrepreneurial myth is that it's not, you don't do this to be busy. You didn't sign up to have a job. You signed up to grow business and grow wealth. And if you have that end in mind, you'll make those decisions correctly along the way. Right?
If there's one thing you could do over, what would that be?
Well, the big obvious one would be I wouldn't take my eye off the ball. I would have stayed involved until the very end. I would have taken my own advice I just gave. It would have changed everything. We'd be having a different conversation right now. Might be sitting in a different house, in fact. I think because everything else, immaterial mistakes, really, that was a big mistake. The rest of them, you learn, you grow, you get beat up. It's part of the process. My mistake was taking my eye off the ball and letting the fatigue overcome me. And for a guy who would never quit, it was very uncharacteristic of me. And maybe I was a little high up in my heart, like, look at me, look how successful I am. Look at you, man. You can eat at Ocean Prime every day and it's nothing. He spends $300 a day. It just, I don't know. That I would have done too. I'd have been a lot more frugal. Because, it's funny. As soon as I came into the money, I became more frugal than I ever had been. So, I would run the business. And that's another piece of advice. Keep your business as lean as possible. Even if you're not going to sell, imagine and pretend as if you're going to sell. Imagine and pretend how you're going to keep that thing so efficient that if someone were to come in, they would not see any waste, zero. We didn't run our business that way. That's something I would have definitely done differently. And it's something I do now. Now I'm accounting for every single penny in my life, and I have more than I ever did before. So I would have done that along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny where you think you've made it to a certain degree along the way and now in a spot where you have more and you're more careful with what you have.
And you know what? I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do this all over again. I'm young, 54. Yeah. I'm going to do this all over again.
Yeah. You've done 12 businesses. I wouldn't bet against, several more.
Well, I'm hoping to do it within the company I'm with. I mean, it's a publicly traded company. We have almost all of the federal government as a client. I mean, the sky is the limit right now. So I'm happy where I'm at. I want to make home runs here and grand slams.
On that note, what are you most looking forward to right now in this season?
Well, for me, it's getting into that enterprise space and talking to these real large customers and the whole learning curve I'm gonna absorb. And other than that, on a personal level, it's I came up with this term when I was 17, and I was starting to do public speaking back then, and I came up with a term called conscious meditation. And there's one thing to sit, like what I do every day. I sit in a sauna every day and I meditate. I sit there and I breathe and I visualize what it would feel like to have the things and to do the things that I want to do. But that's 20 minutes. What about the rest of the day? Mm-hmm. So the rest of the day for me, and what I'm looking forward to is really developing this muscle, which is my conscious meditation muscle, which is to keep me in the mindset, a winning mindset that's positive, that attracts everything that I want in my life. So it's keeping myself thinking and doing and being the man I want to be all through the day, not just in my meditation. Yeah.
That's a great answer. What's your biggest challenge right now?
It's always been the same. Getting up to bat with prospects. It really is. But It's not impossible. It's happening, but I would love a lot more of that. And so that, yeah, cracking that code, how to get up to bat more, particularly with the kinds of accounts that I want to land. And right now, those accounts are, 50, 100 and above, 100,000 a month and above. And there are fewer and further between, obviously. There's a lot less of those. So, and it goes back to what am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to growing. I want to be the best. I want to be number one. That's my objective.
Mm-hmm. What's the number one book you'd recommend others read?
Oh, there's so many. I love them so much. The most influential for me, oh boy, Jesus. Well, all right, can I give you a few?
Yeah, please.
Okay. One book that really changed my life because, I was arrested 9 times before I was 17 years old. I was kicked out of every school I ever attended. But I was also an entrepreneur. So, I also had undiagnosed bipolar disorder. So I was really nuts and still am. But nonetheless, I came across a book called Your Erroneous Zones by Dr. Wayne Dyer. And it really teaches you about your way of life and your way of thinking. And instead of like being a victim and getting caught in the justice traps and self-limiting beliefs and all of these things. So that was a great thing. That changed my life, honestly. It changed everything about my life. And that's when I just went, and that's when I discovered Jim Rohn and Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret. There's a tape you can listen to. It's a tape. It used to be a tape for me, but you can get the recording on YouTube. Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret. It's just a small recording. He was the most listened to talk radio host of his time. Later in life, he had this low, grumbling voice, but when he was young, he spoke like they did in the 50s, like this. And because you could literally hear his speak, the same speech he did in the 50s, and then later in life, just a different voice. But he was amazing. And then Cultivating Unshakable Character, I believe is the name of the book by Jim Rohn. Just such an amazing thing. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Give me 1 second.
Sure.
Yeah, let me just get the exact. Cultivating an Unshakable Character. Yeah, that was such a beautiful blueprint for life, for your kids, for everyone you know. That was amazing. And then I love, those are the ones. I'd say those are the biggest, those are the most influential ones for me. Yeah.
I love the depth and the breadth of the suggestions, right? From Jim Rohn to Earl Nightingale. It's an amazing one. So many, I think people cite the most popular book last year type of thing. It's like you said earlier, so many are really built upon Jim Rohn or some of the classics there.
I'll modernize it. Ready for you? Now that you say that, okay. Traction, the book Traction. You familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We use that whole system, and we use it in every meeting. It's a great way to record progress and document ideas and get everybody rowing in the same direction and have accountability throughout the entire organization. So from a business book, I would say Traction.
All great recommendations.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, I feel like I could do this all day with you. This has been a joy and a privilege.
Thank you.
Would you tell folks how to find you online if you're open to connecting with them?
Yeah. So my LinkedIn, obviously, Jason Caras, you'll see it there. You can give out my cell phone. I tell you what, I'm happy to offer advice because I just don't want anyone to go through what I went through. And I want people to enjoy what I did enjoy and get to, So I like to help people. And so I'll give you my cell phone number, which is 813-777-4343. Drop me a line. You can ask me anything. Email address right now is jcaras, JCARAS @itauthorities.com. That will forward to my new address soon coming, which is going to be at YPoint. But for now, that'll work. I have a personal email address at jcaras@me.com as well.
So transparent, so helpful. Make sure to take Jason up on that amazing offer. And just from the bottom of my heart, this has been amazing. I've learned a ton. Thank you so much for being on MSP Mindset.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's my honor to be here.